Overwhelmed with online, or just wanting to learn more about how you can build a successful business amidst all of the self-appointed gurus, big buzzwords and empty promises? The Breaking Digital podcast by Doyle Buehler tells you exactly what smart entrepreneurs need to know to escape the clutter, get clear of the confusion, and pass the bullshit of building and growing a successful business online. It's about digital leadership and delivering the best value for your business online to your audience. Now, here's your host and author of the book on digital leadership and online marketing, The Digital Delusion, Doyle Buehler.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. I'm Doyle Buehler, and I am so excited to be bringing you a special guest today. I'm really looking forward to helping you learn more about what you can be doing online and helping you to do it better. And if you have any comments throughout the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter at Doyle Buehler with the hashtag #OwnOnline. You can also find the resources that we talk about, as well as the podcast for download on iTunes or thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. All right, let's get started. All right, hello and welcome to Breaking Digital. I'm here today with Dyon Swanborough from Vegas, or Brisbane as I think the locals want it to be called.
Or Brisneyland.
Brisneyland. That's a good one. So welcome, Dyon. How are you today?
Mate, I am awesome. I've had 3 coffees since I got up a few hours ago.
Excellent.
And I'm ready to rock. Ready to give you my best.
Fantastic. And so you're a specialist in a certain area of digital. Could you explain that a little bit for us?
Look, mainly digital procrastination.
All right, well, that's a good one.
I think it's also known as Facebook.
Yeah.
So, look, what I really like to focus on, you had a website company for a long time, but what I like to focus on these days is helping people get their strategy right and their ecosystem. And when I say it's not about building an ecosystem as much as what you do with it, what you plan to do with it.
Yeah. And so you've been involved in digital for quite some time then. Can you tell us about that?
Well, see, the thing is, I finished school in 95, and, Windows 95 that was around the time of Netscape and Internet Explorer, like version 1, when they weren't even, didn't even really work the same way.
Yeah.
Some would argue the Internet Explorer still doesn't work the same as the rest of the world. But the internet was really only just beginning in its current sort of fairly visual form. It was dial-up, bulletin boards and things in the decades before. But that was
lots and lots of text. Yeah.
Yeah, the mid-90s was when hypertext, pictures and text and all formatted in a page-like manner. That was when it really started coming about. And I didn't know I wanted to be involved in it. I just thought it was kind of cool thing. And I was, looking up these cool sites for dance parties, whatever were going on. So, and they were, just sort of interesting. But that was the beginning of it. In my first job a year later, I started learning direct marketing. I just found a thing from a fax and bought the book from this guy in Australia named Peter Sun. He used to import all the information products from guys like Dan Kennedy and the direct marketing gurus, and particularly in America. And then a few years later, that led to buying this course from a guy named Corey Rudel, one of your fellow Canadians, I believe.
Okay.
You're probably well aware of who he was, but he made so much money online as well from teaching people, with these big thick folders of how to do stuff, as well as software tools and things to be able to do what he was doing. That he could afford to be stock car racing as a hobby, and then he ended up crashing a couple of years later and died in having fun. Thankfully, his family were well looked after, and anyway.
Well,
from there,
you don't do racing then, do you?
Well, funnily enough, I used to, but it wasn't stock car racing. It was just sort of sprint trials and so on. And life goes on, and you sometimes have priorities instead of expensive instead of expensive cars. So we'll get back to it soon.
Yeah, no, for sure. So where did your career take you next then?
Well, I'm trying to keep it short so we get to the useful stuff for people. But it led into a briefly sort of a direct marketing consultancy, and I mean, it was very sales roles, so very quickly, sort of taking top sales figures in a couple of roles, and then that were very, what's the word? not. I guess they had a tech element to them. They required an interpretation, explaining things from, I guess, a technical level into practical application terms that people that weren't necessarily as technical could understand. And there's always been that underlying theme in where business sort of went from there, whether that was explaining the complexities of marketing and so that the small businesses I worked with could understand, what we were doing and how it worked and why it wasn't just a case of put an ad in the newspaper and then the money would pile into the bank account. There was a bit
that's
to it than that.
that's funny though, because that's one of the beliefs that a lot of businesses have today, even in the digital age, right? So it's kind of interesting how back then, if that's what you were seeing, it's like, let's just throw money at it.
Yeah, man, look, one thing I've been saying for I don't know how many years now, I've lost count. Business has not changed in hundreds of years. Just the medium and the mechanism has. The tech has sped it up a bit, made it a bit more efficient if you do it right. But it's the principles of business are still the same.
Yeah. So what are some of your principles of business online?
I guess if you just I'm just going to say we can apply it to online, but forget about the online for a moment and let's just keep it as simple as possible and to say the principles of business. To me, business has always been about, obviously you have something that the market wants, but they may not know that you have it or you can give it to them. So, obviously filling a need, what do people need? When I say filling a need, sorry, solving a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People want to solve their problems, not, buy what they need. Problems are more emotional. And without getting into all that psychology stuff at the moment, just these basic principles. What does the market want? And then build a list of people that might possibly want that you believe fit that demographic of people that want that. And communicate with them. Oh, sorry, Doyle. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, and what do you feel that your market wants specifically for those people that you serve?
Okay, so look, over the years, I guess we've always worked with small businesses. When I say small businesses, I mean sometimes you're talking startups that have got capital and a good idea, and they're really they've got some traction. But typically businesses that have been around a little while, they tend to know what they're doing in their own industry and they're stabilized. So they're turning over 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 up to 2 million or so maybe. Generally Australian based, but the principles apply to most Western countries, I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
If I can get back to that listing, it's about building the list and communicate with it.
Yeah.
Well, with not the list, but the people, until they tell you to go away or they come and buy something. When they buy something, keep communicating with them with more value. And those principles of marketing, that's the stuff that's being, if you break it right down, that's the stuff that's being taught, even in courses that are being released now on digital. It's just the means of how you go about doing that most effectively, and how you use the tools and set them up and so on.
And so how do you sort of put your formula together to work for you and your customers?
That's a very good question. How do you mean?
Well, just sort of how do you actually make that work? So are you using certain techniques? Are you using certain processes, certain strategies to kind of, I totally agree in terms of the communication side of things and building that list from there. I'm just curious in terms of, okay, how do you actually do that? What tools do you use? What strategies do you use to be able to communicate properly? Because a lot of times with online, and again, it doesn't really matter online or offline, we sort of fail in the communication side of things.
Yeah. Okay, that's well. Look, I'm going to just go back to 2006 or something, somewhere mid 2000s for a moment, and to say that was the early days of our dedicated web company. The marketing consultancy turned into a website business, and back then we were talking to people about there's only 4 things that matter in a website. Now you've got to remember, but in the mid 2000s, the pretty much getting a website was most people's internet marketing strategy, right? Still is for far too many people, but they would they want a website and say, look, what matters is there's 4 things that really matter. And people have always focused on the design because that's what they can see. I said, look, design's important, but it's not the most important thing. It's one of the top 4. The first thing is can you get found? There's no point having the best looking shop in the world that's in the middle of the desert. Now, I know we've all heard these analogies now. People are a lot more savvy about how online works, but that was the stuff that we were just talking about to, it could be lawyers or gift shops or all sorts of just everyday businesses, those little ones of 2 to 4 staff that drive the economy. Those are the ones that we were talking to back then, and still for the most part do. Anyway, so there's being found, and then there's when somebody comes into the business, or in an online world, it's I'm going to use the shop analogy in this case, shop or office. It could apply to when they come in. How are they treated? How are they greeted? How are they communicated with? And this is going to be the biggest area I still see lacking. But when you come into a shop or an office, the ones where you have the best experience, somebody smiles and talks to you and, makes you feel welcome and sees what you need and what, and tries to help you achieve that. Or show you, products if you're looking to buy something or doing some research on it or whatever. And online, what do we have? We have text and graphics. And for the most part, we still have text and graphics.
Yeah, which can be pretty limiting at the best of times. It's
pretty limiting, and like more and more people have gotten onto video, sure, but most businesses, the stat about a year ago in Australia was that only 23, I think it was, % of Australian small businesses were e-commerce enabled. Now, I know the number's slightly higher. Well, it's a little bit higher, but it still hasn't reached half in, say, North America. So, USA, Canada, wherever. And typically the States is seen to be leaders. Well, I say the States, or I should say North America in general, in technology in a lot of ways. Maybe they just adopt a bit earlier. I could get a little opinionated on my experience.
That's okay.
That's experience in being in the
opinions
Americas.
are important because we all have one.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I heard they were like armpits. Everyone's got 2 and they both stink. So
okay.
I'm sure. I don't want to be an
clean
opinionated
version of that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't want to be an opinionated a-hole though, because I don't want people to miss some of the value that I'd like to think they can get here. So
yeah.
Anyway, so where were we? So that's how people how they're communicated with is important. You don't walk into a shop and there's just signs everywhere, just telling lots of text.
Right.
There's people who interact with you.
Yeah, you always get that annoying person that comes right up to you right at the door and, can I help you? It's like, no, I'm not even. I just walked in. I need to look around.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So there's a balance there, and I think that's still the art of it is applying thinking. Some of the great personal development teachers over the years have talked about how thinking is the hardest work. Guys like Bob Proctor, I think he was a Canadian as well. It tends to be people don't want to think; they just want to throw some money at it and do the thing and have someone else take care of it, and then wonder why it didn't work.
Yeah, well, that's the easy way. Maybe it's just because we're all lazy.
I think that's true. Now, if we apply a little thing, we go, well, how can we translate that experience of when somebody picks up the phone and calls your business or walks into the office or the shop or whatever? How do we translate that into online? Years ago, we were saying use video, but we didn't really publish a whole, I guess, a training, if you like, on this is what you should do to use video. And a lot of businesses get up there and they put pretty much a TV commercial for that term could be, I guess, used quite loosely for many, but that's what they stick on their homepage, and it still doesn't quite, it's a bit clunky, the experience of when you get to the page and where you go once you're on the page and within the website.
Yeah.
But it's coming. It's gradually making progress. Anyway, so once you're there, the other thing is. Point 3 was the fit out of the store or the office. If you've got a really dodgy looking office or shop, people go, I don't know if these guys are very legit, might not be here next week, don't know. So fit out, that's design online. So that it's important, but it's not the thing that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Just having that done well, right? And the last thing is obviously call to action. I would suggest it's also the first. You got to begin with the end in mind, and what do you actually want people to do when they're there? They only really come to a website for 4 reasons, as you know, which is either to, or let me correct myself there and say there's only really 4 things that need to be done. Do you want people to do on a website? Which is at least subscribe or buy something or make an inquiry. Essentially, the loose version of lead generation, qualify themselves as interested in something to some degree. Again, and in direct marketing land, we call that list building. One of those last two things.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing could just be, it's just literally to get information. Where is the place? Find the address, or look up the phone number and call you.
Yeah.
Or grab the product info. So
Do you find that there's a lot of call to actions sort of in the current web space?
I think there is and there isn't. And what I mean,
I'm going to have to disagree, because I don't see a lot of it at all. It really depends. You find sort of a very small segment that has very clear call to action, and then that's probably like 2%. Obviously, I don't have the exact stats, but you have then about 98% that are really just focused on a brochure site with a contact us page with no call to action.
Do you know what? I'm going to agree with you from the perspective you're right in that. That there's not a lot of call to action, and particularly even when it is there, it's not always done well. But I guess I see a fair bit of it playing a lot in the direct marketing space, and spending a lot of time in that world. Everyone's all constantly pitching.
True.
So maybe my experience of the world in recent times is a little bit. What's the word? If you hang out with professional tennis players long enough, you're going to think that's the standard, whereas it's not the average reality, and that's probably a danger, I guess, even for you do something for long enough, you play in any sort of world for long enough, and you just forget what you know and what everyone else doesn't, and could really use having that knowledge and whatever shared with them.
Yeah, because I see a lot of really loosey-goosey, for lack of a better term, websites like you described earlier. It's like, yeah, we just have a website. We don't really have any action to follow up, other than, obviously if you're like an e-commerce shop where you're selling something specific. But even then, that said, like, you still find a lot of them that don't really sort of promote the sale, that don't have an upsell, that don't have kind of a continuing call to action or sales funnel as well. But what has your experience been? You're sort of saying that, well, a lot of what we do is related to call to action. So obviously, if you're implementing it, does that mean that some businesses have it and some don't, or you just kind of help them refine it?
No, look, I'm a big fan of the thing that particularly in our industry we tend to call at the moment lead magnet. It's also known as the opt-in bribe. Yeah. And I think any business can offer that. You could just another word. You doesn't have to give it an almost jargony term like that. We just call it some value in advance. And business has been doing this for decades and centuries. Smart business that want to engage with with their audience and their customer base, or their potential customer base, and that is to get people in store, or to get people on the phone, or to it's an
incentive, right? You're trying to incentivize people.
It's an incentive. Yeah. That's right. And look, I mean, once upon a time, photographers used to be some of the best at this kind of thing. I remember in my first job, I think it was, I was telemarketed. I remember something like that. I answered the phone anyway, and I got pitched this photo session, go and glamour photography. But no, I was like, oh, that's not necessary. But my girlfriend might like it. I'll take her along, right? So they go and do all these photos. They give you some champagne, and you bring in some shirts, and they make you look good on camera, soft focus and all that sort of stuff. And then they show you the photos, and they charge you $40 or $50 for that, and it's a couple of hours. So that could be a bit of fun. And they show you the photos, and they'd be like this. You can buy the small ones for this price, or the big one. And you end up spending $500.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did, still got a couple of the prints. I spent so much money on it back then.
Well, that's good.
But I'm definitely not dating that girl anymore.
Oh, darn. Well, yeah. So it's $500 wasted.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, but see, the point is, they gave me a good experience, and they got my money, and I obviously parted with it because I felt there would be value in that. Mm-hmm. And that was good business. They don't make money on that first bit. It just got me to pull out my wallet.
Yeah. Well, that's the introductory type offer. That's the incentive that says, hey, let's start small and kind of graduate you to something big, which I personally see a lot of that happening now, more so online.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, look, this is to me, this is the beginning of the evolution of of online. It's starting to come of age. It's starting to, find its feet and take responsibility for itself, so to speak. Where it can business online can start to behave a little more like a real business.
Yeah. Is that because people are still learning, though, that they don't really know what to do next? Or, what is it? Like, why is it taking so long? I don't know. I'm not saying I'm impatient, or maybe I am, but it seems like a lot of businesses are kind of behind the eight ball, as the expression goes.
Look,
They're still kind of figuring things out.
I'm just going to throw it out there that not a lot of us are that technical. I don't really indulge in writing a lot of code. I learned some basic in the 80s playing around on computers, but that's because it was there and I was just copied this program of where you kind of type stuff in and the computer would talk back to you, and I just kind of started modifying the conversations. But that was all. You don't really know a lot when you're 10. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But I think up until recently, the technology has not been easy to use, and so you've got very technical people that know how to drive it, but it was quite expensive then, in terms of total labor, to have somebody else get in the middle that understands the end result and can translate that into what the technical people had to do and build and make work and then test and go back. And unless you had a lot of scale, it just wasn't available to make things I'm going to call it humanized for the average smaller business. And a lot of large companies didn't get it because they're large companies, and that just tends to be how they are. Smarter ones these days, if they've got digital departments, they've also got big budgets. That's a topic in a subject. Sorry, a chapter. That's the word I wanted in my my book coming out later this year. So does my budget look big in this? But
okay. Does my budget look big?
No, budget.
Oh, budget. Okay.
I'll put a picture of Tony Abbott on the.
Yeah, exactly. So do you see that trend then continuing? Do you see it stopping? Like, I've found that too, that a lot of people are really kind of scared of the tech. It's still pretty clunky putting all the pieces together to kind of make it go smoothly. But, do you feel that there's companies that are trying to make that easier or harder, or is the business owner always going to be behind?
I do. In fact, years ago, we sort of had another little side brand we revived, I guess, that still haven't really put out into the public a lot, but will be soon. And what we wanted to do with that, we had almost got our systems really close to be able to produce a website you could edit yourself. Now, bear in mind, this is 2008, right? So WordPress was only just starting to become a bit of a thing then. We were using another tech that was before WordPress called Joomla. It's still around, but WordPress obviously the main thing and the best these days. Anyway, we had a system for making it really quick and easy for people to get a site up and get things going. And we were creating this platform based on a shopping cart where the video would guide you through each step of the way and how to make the next choice, just the decision you had to make at that point. So you could pre-order what you want. We could turn around and say, there it is within a week. Now, that would seem like potentially a long time now with what's available. You could do it same day now with some of the tech that's around. And in fact, that's, as of yesterday, picked up some tools and some assets, and we're going to actually release, I guess, the modern version of what that could have been then. I kind of gave up on the idea several years ago and I saw platforms like Wix.com.
Yeah.
and I went, oh, they've already done it. But then I went, no, it's actually not really. It's really clunky and it's not very good and it's not Google friendly. So forget it. No, and I just don't want to be offering something to the world that's crap, because I just don't see the point.
For sure. So recently I've seen sort of things like Page Cloud, I think is one of them.
Page Cloud's pretty cool.
It says that it kind of does it intuitively, and I've never actually signed up for that, but have you sort of investigated that?
Man, I saw the pre-release of Page Cloud and I thought that is a very interesting idea, and I'd actually forgotten about it until you mentioned it just then. In thinking about some of the things for us to talk about today, I was what was I going to say? I don't need to put a noise on this so you know how to edit it.
It's okay.
34 minutes in.
No, we don't do any edits. we're live. Did I mention that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, just got Periscope just with a feed. And
yeah.
So, in thinking about that, I've been thinking about the future of I guess, of digital, and let's face it, what digital ultimately is all about is actually doing business online for the most part. Otherwise, that's all just a bunch of fun, right?
Yeah. It's just about Facebook then.
Yeah. Well, even then, Facebook's a great business engine.
Yeah, true. But we're all suckers for it, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so where the future of this is going, I'd like to think rather than just a video that sort of like has become, or multiple videos that can make a site a choose your own adventure, which was, I guess, the idea where we were going 6 or 7 years back. But ultimately, I'd like to think that it's kind of like Siri and a really good, a really highly functioning e-commerce kind of engine. Say, this is from a retail perspective. But let's say Siri and a good e-commerce engine, Siri was 10 times better, and a good e-commerce engine. They had a wild night together. Its love child would be a shop that would interact with you in voice and probably have some kind of face avatar at least. Probably based on a generic looking face on the most I guess all the research that shows what the most what's the word,
the most
friendly features,
or
most beautiful and friendly. Yeah, bear in mind some people don't know how to handle being in front of really beautiful people. They get intimidated, so you probably want to go for the common denominator average. But back on the psych. So that kind of thing. If Siri could do the ordering for you and say, "Oh, actually, I think maybe you need this." You think about your retail experience. I know I'm talking about retail a lot here, but it's just a good example because everyone has been to a shop before, right? The conversation you have sitting across the desk from your accountant isn't quite the same, but again, a lot of those things could be done. Look, we're 10 years away. There's a guy, and this has just came out on the internet a month ago or so. There's a guy doing some self-driving car research from his own home lab, and he's out to take on Tesla. And he's basically he's getting the car to learn how humans drive rather than just have a bunch of if this then do that algorithms pre-programmed. And that's so that the car can drive smarter.
Yeah, until it kills somebody.
well, yeah, perhaps. But the we're talking about online shopping.
Sorry.
Columbine Shopping Center. Anyway, so just imagine a smart website, not one that's just built well, makes it an easy experience for you to self-serve, but one that actually considers the human aspect, or one that's actually interacting with you. You can just talk to it. That's where I'd like to see it going. It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
That's certainly not the level of tech that I'm working on at the moment.
Well, you have to start somewhere, though, right?
Well, yeah, and I think it's an evolution from. It's all test and measure. Everything, marketing, anything. What works for people, what doesn't. What improve it, go back. It's R&D.
So
it doesn't matter what the product is. That's
your big vision then, is sort of that more communication, easier, more intuitive, that sort of thing?
I'd say it's about humanization.
Okay.
And so making something more intuitive and easier to use is a part of that.
Yeah. Excellent.
And that's why I call the company U Digital. Used to be something or other web design, and then an agency name. I'm Swanborough. My co-director's surname was Hutchinson. We called it Swansky and Hutch. Okay. That was a bit of fun. But
darn, I wish I had a name like that.
Man, come on. You're named after. Well, you got the same surname as one of the dudes in the most famous movies ever.
Yeah, exactly. So with your vision of that, actually, sorry, you mentioned that you're working on a book as well. So can you elaborate on that? What's it going to be about? What's its message?
Well, at the risk of putting it in the same category as your excellent book, which I don't know that I would. It's kind of related. It's about digital strategy, but it's a high level thing.
It's a big world out there.
It's true, yeah. But it's about. We're not talking about how to use YouTube or this particular piece of technology. Really, the idea is that it will still be at least 90% relevant 5 years from now when a lot of the tech has changed. and become further improved, because it's more about the strategic thinking of how it all goes together to make your the way you use technology to engage with people, to the way you use technology to humanize your process. And that's that and it's trying to just make it not so tech, if that makes sense, because a lot of people over the years go, oh, you're an IT guy. No, I'm a marketing guy. I just build marketing on IT backed platforms. It's a big difference.
Yeah, there is, because that's perhaps some of the errors that some businesses make, is they're looking for too much tech. So they the pendulum has swung too far, and they don't sort of have that balance of the marketing side of it, of the strategy side of it as well. It's like, oh, I need a website. Oh, I need SEO. Oh, I need this, that, and whatever. And they go too hardcore tech.
Yeah, that's it. And it's never about the tech, let's face it.
Yeah.
It's always more the swing and less the golf club, right?
Yeah.
The club just helps.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. So when do you expect to have the book out then?
About a year ago.
Okay. Well, you better start.
No. It's actually very close to finish.
Fantastic.
Sydney, she's pretty well hounding me for the final sort of draft.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to say what it's called, but it does. I'm going to say that there's two companies that are really prevalent online.
Yeah.
That are mentioned in the title of the book, but I'm not using their trademark. They're public domain words that they're named after. So I don't know if it ever makes it to America, they could be. They might still have a go, because American litigation.
Well, we're all connected now, Dyon. Yeah. So you better be worried.
I might just stick might just register the trademark for the book in the Cayman Islands or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Good luck to them.
Excellent. So what's next then for you?
What's next? Oh, mate. It's I think it's going to be this online course, because I can't reach the thousands of people that I want to. And it's not about, I don't mean thousands, because I want to make gazillions of dollars. I guess, sure, we all do on some level, but it's not even about that. It's about bridging the gap.
Don't you want a 6-figure income?
Mate, I joked with a friend in online marketing in Sydney last year.
Yeah.
A guy named Glenn, who's brilliant. I think he's also sort of a technical guy for AMX or HP or somebody like that at the moment. But he's very smart and he's very marketing savvy as well. And he's got a couple of sort of, I guess, clients he works with on the side. And doing some cool stuff. I had him in stitches last year telling me about, I'm going to do this program called, how I made $100 on the internet. And I'm going to use all the traditional internet marketing techniques to sell it, but not actually charge anything.
Okay.
I have a picture of me in front of a beat up old Mazda or something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a great idea. How I made $67 online.
Yeah. I think everyone can relate to it. We've all seen too much of it.
Yeah.
Where were we? We were actually talking about
what's next? What's the big thing down the road that you're going to do?
It's making the learning easy and accessible for people to be able to implement this stuff, or find good value providers to do it for them, without having to go and spend 5, 10, 20 grand a month with an agency if that's not necessary. And I know you call yourself your business the anti-agency, and I quite like that. It resonates with me, and I see a lot of your comments online, and I go, this guy's, he's a bit quirky, What? I'd like to talk with him one day.
I thought I was just handsome, or handy.
When you had the ponytail with that little goatee thing going on, that was
okay. All right. Well, yeah,
that's what did it for me.
No man bun though, eh?
I don't know. Isn't it the new thing, or is it once it becomes really prevalent that it's all too late?
I heard it's a double man bun, so yeah.
I got nothing.
That's okay. And so just for sort of the interest of our readers, or listeners rather, readers too, I guess, because we're going to have a transcript. But you're putting together a gift as well that you'd like to offer the listeners. What exactly is that?
There's a couple of things. One is an online test, which is what do you call it? You sure we can't pause this out? Get my words right. Third coffee was a bad idea. So it's an online test to work out, are you digital ready?
Yes.
It's called digitalreadytest.com.
Cool.
And I see that as it's not designed specifically to sell a particular product at the back end. It's really designed for people to be able to know what they need to do next.
So that's what will they get out of it?
The test involves, I guess, a whole bunch. This is a bunch of questions, sort of A, B, C, D, or E, or occasionally, type something in. But what they'll get out of it is knowing the areas they need to focus on.
Yeah.
And what they, what the probably some recommended steps of what to do next.
Okay. And do you help them
take their business to the next level?
And do you help them along that process then, or they just take the test?
Look, so some of our business units, if you like, are little sort of different properties or different sites, can help in different areas. So we have different services or products through those. I guess it would depend on what people need as to what is recommended. And it's not all about our services. It's about raising the bar. All ships. What's the saying about all ships?
Meet in the night.
Right. Well, no. All ships. All ships. Rise with the tide.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Except if they're tied down.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man. I was living in Brisbane in 2011. They had to release all these boats off the river into the ocean because of the floods.
Because of the floods. Yeah.
Yeah. It's too soon.
Cool. Crazy. Yeah. Sorry about that. It brings up some. Yeah. So what's the link then that they can go to?
Okay, so imagine, you go to the site, you answer a bunch of questions, yes, no, A, C, D, whatever, and you get a little report at the end, a little graph that says, this is, what your numbers are. Do you want us to send it to? Yes, put your name and email in here. Optional, would you like somebody to do this, to help you with this? Or, you can just click through to a page that recommends some additional resources. Right. Then you can take it further. So we talk about the idea before of lead magnets or value in advance. I like to give more of that. There'll be something that's super cheap. We're talking under $10 that's got a lot of value to, again, for somebody to be able to know what to do next or make some deeper decisions. Because there's so much to do online. You can't do it all at once. You need to know. I think the big thing is doing the right things. Not just the thing that's the most prevalent. Facebook's in everyone's face, but is that the right thing for that business? Maybe they've got a big email list and they don't communicate with it, so they should just start with that.
Yeah, start simple.
Yeah. So and that's really what it comes down to. If most businesses just got the basics right, they'd be ahead of 95% of other businesses in their category.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. One of my favorite books that I've ever read is by Jay Abraham. It's called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. But if you go and even as recently as a few years ago, if you go and take a Jay Abraham course or one of his intro courses, he's still talking about the same thing he was 20 years ago, which is the three sort of core drivers of business. You boost your number of customers by 10%, you boost your average sale by 10%, and your conversions by 10%, and you've got a 33% gain in profit, right? That model. And I think, just because we've all heard it before doesn't mean to say, we don't need to be reminded and make sure we're actually doing it.
Actually do it. Yeah. That's always the hard part, eh?
And then work on upping those numbers. And look, 10% is just so, you say, it's only 10, but it makes a massive difference.
Oh, for sure. Over the long term. Yeah.
If all of us had a 30% pay rise this year,
yeah.
If everybody in the world, or if every business owner could just make 30% pay rise, the world would be a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to play the long game. And so, what was the link again? Just so we can send people there?
It's digitalreadytest.com. I believe. Is that the one?
That's the one. Yep. Digitalreadytest.com.
I'm pretty sure I haven't actually got it in front of me. So
okay. That's okay. Not .com.au to confuse everyone.
No. It's .com because you've got a global audience. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, that's really good. So is there anything else you kind of wanted to let loose on digital online business?
There probably is. How long have you got?
Days.
Well, I made some notes just earlier, and maybe I guess we don't have to solve all the problems of the world in one podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
But there is there's a whole bunch of things that I wanted to, I guess, make sure we get into people's heads. One of the things I was thinking about, I was asked recently, what is digital leadership, or how do you define digital leadership? And I went, it's not about doing the latest thing first. It's about doing what you do, whatever you choose to do, in a way that makes sense and actually it gets a good result. So, all these people jumped on Periscope when it came out, right? I installed the app and I, checked it out just to see, I saw couple of people just start streaming. I went, this doesn't work for me. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just, I don't even know what you want to talk about. I want to drop everything to hear you do a video about something. But I think if I was only following, say, people that I wanted to hear from, and it was what's the word? It was predetermined when they were going to do it. It was preset time and day. So let's say there was an event on, and somebody's going to be doing live interviews at this event, or just, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this. And what if somebody actually started, just found a way to plug a couple of microphones in, put their phone on a stand, and just do a live interview somewhere,
Yeah.
and told people, I'm going to be at this thing, and I'm going to be interviewing different people about this and that and the other thing, and then see, that would be showing some leadership using that meeting, because there's a purpose to it.
Yeah, and a lot of what we do doesn't seem to have a real purpose, and that's kind of why, yeah, like we obviously think similar. It's like it doesn't really matter about the tech. It's really how you use it.
Yeah. Look, Twitter's powerful, right? But I don't really use it a lot yet, because you don't need to use everything all at once.
No, you don't. You got to be smart about where you put your resources.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not talking to your customers at least once every week or two via email, if you're not maximizing the basics, you don't have to be producing thousands of pages of content every week, or even sharing 3 times a day. You just need to be actually communicating with people. Sure, share some useful things, but just let's not just be.
Yeah, you don't have to add to the confusion and the clutter.
No, that's right. Quality over quantity, I guess, is it could be summarized as.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. No, fantastic discussion, Dyon.
Thanks, mate.
No, I've really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, so it's been a great conversation, and really want to thank you for spending some time with me and talking about digital. And I think we've got some fantastic ideas to go through and learn more about as well as we get into this. So thank you very much, Dyon.
Did you say about? I was expecting you to say a boot.
I was going to do that. I was just going to kind of slip that in there.
It's all your time in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've learned a lot about digital. How was that?
Yeah, that's right. I feel like the conversation's complete now.
Oh, okay. Perfect. No, really. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to speak with you. And for all the listeners, we'll be publishing this obviously on the website, thedigitaldelusion.com /podcast, and we'll have the transcripts and the link as well to Dyon's digitalreadytest.com. So
cool.
Without further ado, thank you so much. And
my pleasure, Doyle.
We'll talk again soon.
All right, man. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. If you have any comments on the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter @Doyle Buehler with the hashtag #OwnOnline. I would really appreciate it if you could share this podcast with your network, as I'm sure they will get some value from it for building their successful business online as well. You can find the resources that we talked about, as well as the transcript and full podcast for download on thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast or on iTunes or on SoundCloud. I'm Doyle Buehler, and I will see you online.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Digital with Doyle Buehler. While he goes and makes a sandwich, you can find all of the notes, links, and details on this podcast by visiting thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. Go on and click that now. www.thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. I'll definitely click that. If you'd like a free copy of the book, The Digital Delusion, How to Overcome the Misguidance and Misinformation Online, just send an email to doyle@thedigitaldelusion.com. See you online.